Jose Capablanca sacrifices both his rooks in this match to checkmate just with his queen against this match against Herman Steiner. The match happened in 1933 and it happened in Los Angeles, United States. So this is the knight to c3, and after knight to f6, this is the four knights game, and the bishop goes to b5, attacking that knight, and basically Steiner does the same and attacks the Capablanca's knight, and Capablanca immediately castles on the king's side, who is playing with the white pieces, and Hermanstein with the black pieces. And once the pawn push of d3 happens, d6 is played. Both the players are moving symmetrically, and this knight bishop to g5 move wins the knight. And after the capture of that knight earlier, this pawn is takes back the bishop. So now these pawns are doubled, but it's not that much a bad thing. It allows this rook to come here and to get activated on this particular b line. And after that, the knight goes to e7, and which allows the pawn to be pushed onto c5, or c6 could be played, attacking the bishop. So the knight to h4 is played by Capablanca, and c6 is played, attacking the bishop. The bishop goes to c4, and the bishop of black bishop comes to e6, attacking the bishop. So after that, this bishop captures the knight, which basically forces the king pawn to take that particular bishop back, and this creates a double pawn structure and also an exposed king. And also the queen is not that active, and even this pawn acts as a blocker on its own queen as well. So now the bishops get exchanged, and the pawn takes the bishop back, and the queen comes to g4, creating a check and also an attack on this weak backward pawn. And the king comes to f7, attacking, supporting the pawn, defending from the attack of the queen. And it also allows the king to retrieve to the back rank if needed. And f4 is played by Capablanca. So he could have also gone for the rook to b1 move, but didn't happen. f4 is played, and now this allows the rook to go to g8, attacking the queen. So the queen places a check at h5, and after the king moves to g7, the f pawn takes the e5 pawn, and now d into e5 is played basically. So after this, the rook sacrifice, the first rook sacrifice happened. The rook just captures that pawn, which brings the king again forward into the game. And now the other rooks comes to f1, creating a check, and the knight just closes the check by knight to f5. And instead of taking with his pawn here, Capablanca captures with his knight, and once the pawn takes the knight back, you can bring your rook and create a check. And now both these pieces are pretty active. Even though Capablanca is down by a rook, you can see that Hermanstein's rook is pretty much absent in the game and inactive throughout the game. So due to the check, the king goes to e7, and now the queen goes after the king, and queen to f7 check, and the king moves to d6, which allows the rook to place the next check at f6. And now the king had to go to c5, and which results in the queen taking this b7 pawn over here. And now you can take this pawn, and it's checkmate return all over the board, because you cannot move anywhere else. All these three squares and everything is covered by the back pawns, and also by the rook and the queen. So the queen comes to b6, trying to attack the queen, and trying to exchange the queens off, and trying to win the game, because there is only one rook on the board for Capablanca. So instead, Capablanca played this turner. He just captures that particular pawn here, and if you because it's a check, you have to take. If you cannot go anywhere else, because there is no space to go. You just can go here, but if you capture it, if you go here, the rook will capture the queen, and literally it's game over there. So if the queen captures, so the queen capture is what happened. The queen captures the c6 pawn, and then the queen comes to b4, creating a check over here. So now this is a checkmate on the board, because the king cannot move anywhere else. All the squares are covered. These diagonals, these squares are covered by the queen, and this by the queen as well, and this by the pawn. This pawn is covering this diagonal, and the only escape square which was blocked by the queen, which resulted in a from the sacrifice of the rook, and it definitely cannot go back because of the queen itself. So the queen on its own delivers a checkmate in this match, and Capablanca win this exhibition match. So, so thanks very much for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.